What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Tuesday, November 22nd, 2 days before the Thanksgiving Day games. We will be busy this week and we'll be off, so this will be our final show until Friday. And then we will make our picks for our Sunday games, talk about the action that goes on the Thursday games, 3 games on Thursday, and it's a big week for a lot of teams. And if you're just tuning in, we are live. So we thank you for tuning in if you are listening to us live at this moment. If you want to get at me, there's several ways you can get at me. You can hit me up on Twitter at NotBland21. You can also email the show at straightshootingsportstalk@gmail.com. And we will get back to you ASAP. And if there's a topic that's good enough, hey, we'll talk about it on this show. Well, without further ado, we're going to go a little bit out of order here, and we're going to tackle the 3:30 matchup, the Washington Redskins against the Dallas Cowboys. We talked about this several times throughout the season, of how the NFC is one of the best divisions in football, one of the toughest divisions in football. And let me tell you, it's going to be awesome to be able to see these two teams who are fighting for playoff spots come into this thing and try to dismantle each other. Now, Dallas Cowboys, we know, lost their first game. And as of right now, the way the Giants looks like a good loss. Many would say that, hey, man, we had an opportunity to win that game, especially Dallas fans. They're like, man, we had an opportunity to win this game. And you did. You did. And I actually think if they got in the position, they'd probably be 10-0 right now. The Washington Redskins got off to a slow start coming into the season. Many were looking at this team as if to say, oh, here we go again. Here we go again. Same old Redskins. And they've started to turn it around. Kirk Cousins is starting to find his groove, and they are at 6-3 at the moment. And they are going to go into Dallas, 3:30 Central matchup, 4:30 Eastern matchup. And ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a ball game here. And I think this is probably going to be the best game of the day. When you look at the Dallas Cowboys, I'm just going to rattle off 3 drives that were scoring drives last week for the Dallas Cowboys against the Baltimore Ravens. 10-play drive, 92 yards. 13-play drive, 88 yards. 13-play drive, 72 yards. Guess what? The Dak attack, Dakota Prescott had no interceptions in that game. 301, 3 touchdowns, no INTs. That's quality football, ladies and gentlemen. But hey, there's another quarterback on the other side named Kirk Cousins. Some call him Captain Kirk. And he had quite the day himself. He was 21 of 30, 375, 3 touchdowns, and yes, he had no interceptions as well, putting up 20 points in the fourth quarter. And he's been on fire for the last couple of weeks. This team has been on fire offensively. Defensively, they've been a bend but don't break type of defense. Definitely not a top-tier defense, that's for sure. But they haven't broken inside the red zone too many times, not giving up too many points. They did give up 24 to the Green Bay Packers, but we are talking about Aaron Rodgers. He's not the bad man he used to be, but he is Aaron Rodgers. Now, I know many people are talking about, well, the Cowboys haven't really played anybody. Well, they played Baltimore, a defense that I thought would give them the test. They did. They gave them the physicality that is needed to go up against that offensive line, but they stood up to the challenge as I picked them last week. And hey, man, they're only playing the teams that are given to them in front of them. But this right here is going to be a great matchup and can go either way. But let's get into it a little bit and let's look at the Dallas Cowboys on the offensive side of the ball. You have the best offensive line, and I've said this many times. Dallas has the best offensive line in football. I think it's very close. Two for me is the Oakland Raiders, but it could be 1A and 1B. That's how good both those offensive lines are. It takes a level of physicality to be able to manhandle this type of defense, this type of offensive line. Um, they do a very good job protecting Dak, but Dak does a very good job of getting rid of the football. But there's a stat that's very important to their success because we all know defensively they rank, I believe, 5 in the league, but they don't have the defensive talent that a Minnesota has. Um, that some of the teams, you even go as far as the Denver Broncos. They don't have that defensive talent, but what has been helping them is it's called time of possession, and the best defense is a very good offense, and it's something that the Cowboys have been doing a fantastic job of. They are number one in time of possession. They are number one in time per drive. On the year, they've had the ball for 2,031 minutes. Now, Washington has had the ball for 1898. Granted, they've had some quick scores. Uh, but that's a lot of time, ladies and gentlemen. You know what that does to a team? First of all, there's two combinations with this Cowboys offense. The time of possession and the fact that they are finishing drives. They are 48% conversion rate on third down. That means you're keeping drives alive almost 50% of the time. So there's not a lot of 3-and-outs that are happening with this offense. And whether it's touchdowns or field goals, this team's putting up points on the board practically almost every drive. That's very tough for an opposing teams to compete with. Now you add at times your offense is going 3-and-out, and then you add that you're getting behind in a ball game. Guess what? Well, the Dallas defense doesn't have to defend very much because you're not going to run the ball very much because your pass has to get you down the field quickly to score because you're behind and they're taking a lot of time off the clock. That's where this team is lethal. Holding on to the ball, having your offense watch them dismantle you on defense, dismantle your defense and score. And if you come out pressing and don't do anything about it, guess what? They get the ball back and they do it over and over and over again. And they had a slow start against Baltimore, but they stayed the course. In the second half, they wore down the Ravens and did what they had to do to win the ball game. Now let's look at Washington Redskins. Same thing. They are averaging almost about 40, almost 47-3 in conversion rates on third downs, and that's important. That means you're keeping drives alive. Their offense is clicking right now on all cylinders. They have many weapons from Vernon Davis showing up. You have the Niles Pauls. It's going to be a great offensive matchup and a chess match for both defenses because both offenses have weapons. The key here, though, for this game for me doesn't even come down to it doesn't come down to weapons, doesn't come down to offensive lines, doesn't come down to run game. It doesn't even factor in the defenses and what they are not able to do. What changes this game for me is all about time of possession. And if you watch the game on Sunday night with the Washington Redskins, there's some things that concern me. And it showed up in the Minnesota Vikings game. Washington has a habit of jumping up on folks and then they have a tendency of allowing these teams back in the game. And we saw it in the first matchup with the Dallas Cowboys. And I'll be the first to tell you, from a standpoint of, uh, viewing the game as a reporter, everybody knows that I'm from the DC area. But as a reporter looking at this game, in that first game, Washington had the game and Kirk went old school Kirk. And that interception was costly. Dallas goes right down the field, takes up all the time, leaving very little time for the Redskins to come back, takes that score, and that's the score that wins the ball game. I expect it to be much of the same. There's going to be a very close ball game. I'm saying a 24-28 ball game. This could be a 21-24 ball game. Either way. But I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys. And this is why. When you look at what they've done in orchestrating a balanced offense, they can not only beat you with Ezekiel Elliott, but Dak has the ability to pass from the pocket. But there's that X factor of him potentially running the ball. Something I feel that the Washington Redskins don't do a very good job of with running quarterbacks. You saw it a few times with Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot of over pursuing sometimes. They get back to the quarterback, but they don't finish. And I think a combination of those three things, that combo, plus them methodically driving down the field at home, mind you, dominating time of possession, that's going to be the deciding factor. It just isn't going to be enough time on the clock for Washington to be able to win this football game. I'm going to take the Washington Redskins to lose against the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys, ladies and gentlemen, are going to be 10-1 after Thanksgiving Day. Let's get into the matchup against the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. Minnesota's been up and down, and you have to give a lot of credit to the staff on getting a solid quarterback in Bradford. I thought they gave him too much, but he's done an excellent job for this offense. They've stumbled a little bit. They are on the low side of 40%, almost in the 39 percentile range and converting on third down. The fact that they don't have a consistent running game, they're averaging about 70 yards per run, per rushing yards per game. That's not a lot. And when you're giving up 100 rushing yards and you're giving up 306 total yards per game, it's not really a good look for your team, especially when you're not really scoring as much as you would like. Now, they're averaging about 20.5 per game, and they're averaging about allowing 17.5 yards. Now, when you get a couple of those together, you're going to win more games than you lose. But sometimes their offense stalls, putting their defense out there to dry a little bit, and their defense hasn't been that great away from home. We saw that in Washington at FedEx Field and a couple of other venues as well. But when they're at home, it seems like they just have another gear. They have another sense of focus. And we saw that this past weekend as well. Now they will be in Detroit, and Matt Stafford. They're not hot and that consistent for 3 quarters, but when you give them an opportunity and you let them hang around for the entire game, in the fourth quarter, Matt Stafford has put together game-winning drives on several occasions to put this team in position to be atop of the NFC North. Crazy, huh? And both of these teams are tied 6-4. They both have the same divisional record, 1-2. So this is a crucial game for both teams, because you want to have a leg up on the division just in case it comes down to tiebreakers. So both teams will be looking to get a win, not only to get a game up on their opponent, but to also get a game up in the divisional rankings as well, because they're both 1-2, as we said. Who's going to win this game? I'm going to take the Detroit Lions at home. I like Matthew Stafford, what he's doing and spreading the ball around. I think he looks a lot better now without Megatron. And I know, Megatron is a Hall of Famer, but I felt like sometimes he was forcing it to him. And now he can focus on the entire offense. And he's done an excellent job of spreading it around. Guys have stepped up and made plays. This defense has played pretty well. And I think because they have that dynamic, and the fact that Minnesota Vikings defense hasn't really traveled very well, I think this is going to be another close game. But I think you're going to find in the late seconds, in the late minutes of the fourth quarter, Matthew Stafford will put together a drive and win this thing. Probably 27-20 is what I see in this ball game against the Detroit Lions. But I'm going to take the Lions in this one. And last but not least, it's the first game that will be played. It's one of the most not as interesting, I should say. It looks to be lopsided. Jared Goff is going to get his second start at quarterback. Thought Todd Gurley looked a lot better with Goff back there. He ran hard, looked like the old Gurley that we're used to. He didn't look like a Gurley man. The New Orleans Saints, we know their struggles on defense. They've been struggling off and on, but we know that they put up points on the board, and their third down conversions are 50%. They convert on third downs. They move the ball very well, putting up at least 422 yards per game. And their running game has been on point as well. They're averaging about 105 yards per game with that combination there. Hightower's come in and done an excellent job. You think he's a young man now, the way he's running the ball out there. And we know the weapons that Drew Brees has to throw to and what he brings to the table. And I think it's just going to come down to experience. Saints are a team that have been there, done that. They kind of smell a little bit of blood in the water. I thought that that loss that they faced against Carolina was something that will spur this team. They should have won that game, but hey, shoulda, coulda, woulda, and special teams sometimes burns you, and that's what happened. But this team, we know, at any time can light it on fire. And I think this is a Rams team that's struggling to find an identity. And now they have their rookie quarterback back there orchestrating things. He's learning and continuing to learn. But I think they are just going to be outmatched here in this game. And everybody knows that it gets loud in the dome. And the Dome Patrol will be on point. So Goff's going to get introduced to what it's like to play in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. And he's going to get baptized, so to speak. And that game will be at 1 o'clock Eastern. And I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints. I don't think it's going to be close. It's probably going to be the worst game of the day. But I think we have some good matchups on Thanksgiving Day. Some better matchups than we've had in previous years. And everybody knows when you get the Redskins and Cowboys together, not only do the fans have a lot of fun with it, talking trash and expressing their excitement, but now these two teams are not only have a really big fan base that's really passionate about their team, but these two teams are playing winning football and are fighting and clawing for not only to win the division, but actually also to get a playoff spot as well. So this is going to be a game that is going to be phenomenally good. Don't miss it. Eat up, get fat, watch football, enjoy. Well, like I said, we will be gone for the next 2 days, and we will come back Friday and pick our Sunday games, but enjoy your time off, enjoy your families, and thank you for listening to this show. We will get at you later.
Yeah, crab cakes and football. That's what Maryland does.